amazing. OMG. It is Move Monday. Yet again. These Mondays, it's almost like there's one every week. It's crazy. Good morning, everybody. As we wait for people to come in, I will do my normal morning spiel. AptosLabs.com/careers is the best place to start your Aptos Labs journey. You could be sitting here with us next week, as soon as Monday, in fact. Make sure that it's AptosLabs.com/careers. We are hiring across engineering, marketing, design, a very, very wide variety of specialties, career paths, and levels of seniority too. So
TPM
and
too.
TPMs, yes.
Release manager, we need release manager.
And if you don't see a role, it probably exists. We just haven't gotten to writing it down yet. So just apply. Yes. Just put your resume in there. We'll find a good job for you. I think we've got jobs for grandmothers, grandmothers' wives, grandmothers' girlfriends, and their husbands, all in one, happy family.
We hire all kinds of grandparents.
But anyway,
the full spectrum of whatever grandparent situation you got going on, we got roles. Fantastic. And make sure, again, it's aptoslabs.com/careers. You don't want to get scammed. Hasn't happened yet, but who knows? With us today, we actually have Thala. We're going to have, this back-to-back deep dive into stablecoins, and I'm looking forward to introducing them. But first, I think we should introduce ourselves, because no one knows who we are. I'm Max. I'm an engineer here on Ecosystem.
I'm Sherry. I'm an engineer on stuff. I do stuff.
She does a lot of stuff. I'm Avery. I'm CTO of Aptos. I do very little stuff, actually.
Avery also does a lot of stuff.
And I'm David, and I stake toads.
You stake toads. Yes, toad staking. Amazing.
I got so many flies coming to me. It's crazy. I have no idea what I'm going to do with them all. Probably get more toads.
There you go.
If anyone knows how David can get more toads, apparently David's interested in more toads. But with us today, we have Adam from Thala. If you want to introduce your team.
Yep. Yeah. Hey guys. I'm Adam, the co-founder and CEO of Thala. So I oversee kind of all aspects of the business, from product, strategy, and engineering. And we also have OXB1, who's our CTO, on the call.
Hey folks. Very glad to be here.
Very glad to have you. Oh, it's been such an interesting time. Please, I guess this is a great time for you to shill Thala Labs. What is Thala Labs? What are you working on? How do you do stablecoins, and what's kind of the roadmap?
Yeah, sure. So, Thala is a DeFi protocol, native to the Aptos blockchain. So first of all, and, our protocol, really revolves around, two key products. So one is a stablecoin called Move Dollar, and the second is our AMM called ThalAM. So the stablecoin is an Aptos native stablecoin. It's used to transact, facilitate, and interact with other DeFi protocols in the Aptos ecosystem. It acts as a store of value, by remaining at a $1 peg. So it's an over collateralized, CDP based model. So basically, the collateral, backing it, always ensures that it remains at $1. So it has a diverse collateral base. So these are things like, liquid stake derivatives, LP pool tokens, depositor pool tokens, and some other things we're working on, including real world assets. And this ensures that's like decentralized, censorship resistant, but doesn't compromise on capital efficiency. And then the other product that we're building out in tandem with it is our AMM. So the real thinking behind the AMM was we wanted to have this vertical expansion and really own the liquidity layer of the stablecoin. I think a lot of stablecoins make their product, have like some cool mechanisms like yield bearing interest rates, but they fail to really grow. And with this AMM, we can direct emissions to our own pools, really own and grow the liquidity layer, do things like onboard our LP tokens as collateral, like grow the mod supply that way, and really like enable deep like long-term liquidity that we don't have to pay a lot to get for a stablecoin. So yeah, that's the high level.
Interesting. And so for those listening, I know that there are a lot of acronyms that we use. What is a CDP?
Yeah, so it's like a collateralized debt position. So basically, like you have some debt that backs your stable. It's like you lock collateral up, and then you can mint the stable mod from it.
Cool. And I guess for you guys, what is the backing?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have, or we're going to launch with a pretty wide collateral base. So, this includes things like the Aptos token, of course, liquid stake derivatives. If people want to borrow against the yield generating positions, like Tortoga's liquid stake APT, other stable coins that are bridged over, which ideally aren't going to be a large portion of the backing, but things like Wormhole or Layer 0 USDC. And then just like the governance tokens of Aptos native projects when they launch, as well as LP tokens from our own AMM.
Awesome. How do you kind of determine the ratios of these?
Yeah, so setting collateral ratios on assets is like really important. You don't want people to get like liquidated constantly and bad debt to accrue, but you also want to have some level of capital efficiency. So it is a little bit of a holistic process. You typically have to look at like a really wide variety of parameters. So we have like a collateral risk framework, which is quite in depth. So, the more holistic things, we have like smart contract risk, counterparty risk, and we kind of rate these from 1 to 5, look at it subjectively, has this coin that we're onboarding been audited, who are the large holders, is it going to go to 0. And then, some of the more quantitative things around like the liquidity risk and volatility risk. So, we run kind of some simple, volatility calculations, see what the asset trades to, trades within, on a daily basis, and see, where can we set a collateral ratio that still makes sense, given the volatility of the asset. So typically for safer things, like the Aptos token, we would launch at something like 130%. But for more volatile governance tokens, we would launch at 200%. And then for something, that's like really safe and low volatility like USDC, we would be able to collateralize that at 110%.
Awesome. So for borrowing, are those also the same rates that basically what you're saying is with 100% collateralization, if I were going to borrow, that means that I get roughly 90% value that I can borrow against the assets?
Yeah, that's right. So that'd be initially for something like USDC, but the goal is that, as on-chain liquidity for the Aptos token grows, as volatility lowers, we'd be able to offer 110% borrowing against the Aptos tokens. Yes, you get 90% for every unit deposited.
Amazing. So I guess the next clear question is, I see that the app is coming soon. What does the timeline kind of look like? And I know this is occasionally a difficult question.
Yeah. So we're getting our second audit done by AutoSec right now. So we had one audit from Zelic, but we want to finish a second audit. Security is really important to us. One of the reasons we chose Move and Aptos was because of security. So we want to get this last part done. I think roughly it'll take us from now to launch 2 to 3 weeks. So a pretty short time period. We basically just want to get that audit back and address everything, and then we'll be good to go.
Cool. So very, very soon, as we like to say, I guess.
Soon. Soon, TM. Yeah.
Sweet. What kind of got you into the DeFi space?
Yeah, sure. Well, I got back into like crypto, I guess more specifically Bitcoin, way back when I was in like high school or even elementary school, 2013, 2014. So it's kind of like a typical story, like with crypto people. There's like this game called CSGO, like Counter-Strike, and they had virtual items in the game, skins, as you like to call them. And I was pretty young back then, 13, 14 years old. Wanted to like cash out and trade. These items were worth something, but didn't really have all like the bank account infrastructure set up. So turned to Bitcoin. I really used that kind of for gaming related purposes. I was always like into computer science and programming throughout high school too. So I think when Ethereum and like smart contracts started becoming a thing, I was looking into that 2018, 2019, just personally following the space. Did for some things for DAOs in 2020 or 2021, like vault strategies, data science for a few protocols. And then I joined a crypto VC, ParaFi Capital, which actually invested in Aptos. Was doing some of the research there around Move. Met like Mo and Neil and some of the guys at a few conferences and on calls here and there. But yeah, that's a story of how I got into DeFi and then eventually chose to build on Aptos.
That's awesome. So getting then from some of these other languages that you were looking at into Move, how was that? We're always interested in both the good and the bad.
Yeah. Wait, sorry. Would you mind repeat? The question was, how was the transition from other languages into Move?
Yeah.
So I think, when I, first started writing, I guess like Move contracts a little while ago, I thought, it was just like a quite an improvement, from Solidity. I thought like in Solidity, they're constantly like having to see, did I make an error that's going to blow up, this whole contract? Am I doing this right? Am I doing that? It's like very kind of, there's a granular looking at parts, and it's kind of difficult to write a functioning app. You have to test so many things. There's like a lot of landmines to watch out for. I think with Move, sidestepped a lot of that. I think this would also be a great question for our CTO, OXB1, who's really had a lot of experience with this, if you want to jump into.
Yeah, sure thing. So basically, I would say developing in Move is simply a pleasure, and it's pretty enjoyable because the language itself, it's like, to me, it's like a subset of Rust. So you have like a lot of safety, so when you write a program, it already lets you know that if it compiles or not, and if you're making some mistakes pretty early on, instead of you're having to like run some hard hat scripts to discover that, right? So after you finish your first pass code, and then you have the full set of toolchain, either Move or Aptos, they have pretty good CLI for development purpose. It also reminds me of the Rust tooling, such as like Cargo, etc. It's just fast, spot on, with pretty clear error message to help me understand what's going on. And yeah, it's pretty, there's no going back, I would say. So
Yeah.
So once you write some Move, and it will take you a lot of time to persuade somebody to go back to Solidity. That's what I think.
That's always good to hear. But what about the bad? Like, have there been any difficulties, any confusion?
Oh yeah. So difficulty would be there's no view function. So every time I need to get some data for my front-end apps, go to the resources and try to compute the result in the front end. But just a small thing to improve. Other than that, I think, because it's super early, so a lot of sometimes the error message doesn't like make a lot of sense if you go to Google or Stack Overflow, but you can always find the answer on Discord because Greg is always there. answering question. So that's great. And so far, so good. I think the team is moving pretty fast, and I'm pretty sure like in a year, there will be tons of question and answers on Stack Overflow. So that will be solved. And also like being able to find answers in a Discord server make you feel you're early, right? So that's good.
It's very true. Well, thank you. That's actually a really good call out. So we have started actually monitoring Stack Overflow much more closely. We do check it, at least daily at this point. And much like Greg is always in Discord, a bunch of us are now always on Stack Overflow to help answer these questions, specifically because, finding answers in Discord is hard. Stack Overflow is obviously
that's
much
great.
easier.
We created many tags in the Stack Overflow now. Hopefully, we will investing a lot more into Stack Overflow and start navigating lots of the questions over there. And definitely a good point is that we wanted to make all those questions searchable so that it can help other people. Because like everybody, at the end of the day, like 90% of your question can be answered by Google, and now we're in a great state to be at.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, look forward to that.
Fantastic. So if you do have any questions, feel free to ask Stack Overflow. And we'll slowly try to move them over there as well. Sweet. So one of the questions from the community actually is, who will audit the stablecoin?
Yeah, so I mentioned this just before, but the two auditors we're working with are Zelic and OtterSec. So Zelic did one audit, and then OtterSec is finishing their audit now, or in the process of it.
Sweet. Another one of the questions is, maintaining the peg to the dollar, but also what would, I guess, what is the response potentially if you lose a peg?
Yeah. So the way that the peg is, well, so first, I guess in the system, we have redemptions. So these aren't like on by default, and they're not, always on for every piece of collateral, but they are like the primary way that we deal with these situations. If the stablecoin is trading under $1, we enable redemptions, and what you can do is take your 1 unit or $1 of mod and redeem it for $1 of the underlying collateral. It's a pretty robust mechanism. Makes a lot of sense. You'll be redeeming $1 mod for $1 of the Aptos token. You can sell that and get your dollar back. So yeah, I mean that's the primary way that would remain on peg. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So what happens if someone doesn't pay it back? What is the process then for liquidation potentially? And is it full liquidation or is it like a partial liquidation?
Yeah, so we have we have two mechanisms of liquidation. So the first one is like a stability pool based system. So stability pools are meant to absorb debt from liquidations and kind of reward users. And how it works is, you have this stability pool and you deposit mod, the stablecoin, into it, and you become a stability provider. And when vaults or these CDPs become under collateralized, the stability pools kind of jump in automatically, and liquidate them. So if you have mod staked in there, that mod's used to repay the debt, and you get this collateral back plus a liquidation bonus. So this is kind of similar to liquidity. So the benefits are that it offers instant liquidations, but kind of the downside is that you need mod constantly in the stability pool. So let's say the mod in there runs out. We would be constantly incentivizing it, but let's say there's not enough. Then the other method for liquidation is a pretty standard Dutch auction, kind of similar to what MakerDAO offers. People can bid on the collateral. And then you asked a question about partial liquidations. So in the stability pool model, we kind of liquidate you just enough, to bring you back to a healthy collateral ratio, plus a bit. It's a better UX, so you don't basically lose everything is as soon as you go below an unhealthy color ratio, you can get bumped back up. So yeah.
Awesome. Let's see what other questions we have from the community. David, do you have any questions perchance? I know that David really likes to answer or ask questions about Move.
Oh, so I think that kind of taking a step back, you guys are building out actually a lot of interesting things in the space. And I don't think we really got into the weeds. Can you actually walk me through how you imagine a user kind of gets into Thala and all the fun things that they might be engaging with? And what kind of led you to the path of having at least the three different components that we've already discussed this morning?
Yeah. So I guess, well, maybe I'll answer the last question first. Like, so why do we have those three different components, or kind of answer all in one? So we really wanted to, bring the stablecoin to Aptos. That'd be one of the first, but also, really grow. Not suffer from what a lot of other stablecoins on other new chains have, in that they don't grow at all. So the best way to do this in our mind was to create multiple products that supported the stable. And you're kind of the typical user flow or ideal user flow, kind of simplified, would be you go in our app, let's say that you have the Aptos token, or you have some liquid stake derivative or other token we're accepting as collateral. You take that and you mint mod against it. So let's say you're bullish on Aptos, the token. You think it's going to go up in price, so you don't want to sell it, but you need to pay for something. So you borrow some stable coins, and do whatever with it. So you have that mod, and then let's say you don't want to use those stable coins to pay for something. You want to keep it in the Aptos DeFi ecosystem. So what you would do is you go to our AMM, for example, and provide liquidity against mod USDC, or mod APT, or mod against their potential governance token. And instead of having to go to like another AMM and like where they'd maybe have some weird things with yield and mod incentivization, we directly and like heavily incentivize really just these mod pairs, so you'd be getting your best bang for the buck. And yeah, you'd be earning a yield against this. And what you could do from there is, let's say you're providing liquidity against mod USDC. You could take that LP token and potentially remint mod against that. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the long user flow of the stable and the AMM. And then I think like the product that's built on top of the AMM that we haven't really touched on so far is, we can call it a launchpad, but it's really like a liquidity bootstrapping pool. It's an inherent mechanism to like the weighted pool AMM logic that we've built out. If you're familiar with Balancer V2, it's similar to that. So I guess, maybe skipped over this part a little bit, but so our AMM, has multi-asset pools, stable swap pools, as the two main components. So these are pools that have like, could have mod, could have APT in it, it could have a liquid stake derivative, it could have multiple assets, all the way up to 8. Just as kind of a side note there. So yeah, back on track with the launchpad or liquidity bootstrapping pools. It's basically a token sale mechanism that relies on kind of the balancer or the math that we have of weighted pool math of like a declining token price over time, and it allows people to come in and find a fair price to buy. So with that, we wanted to see, how can we integrate that and also use it to grow our stablecoin. So, on our platform, you can raise or do a token sale in the Aptos token APT, of course, but you can also do it using mod. And I think with that, that's like the last flow of getting mod into DAO treasuries on Aptos. So imagine, you have your governance token, you want to go live, you do this LBP token sale, but you accept it in mod. So people would have to go in our app, collateralize APT or some asset, mint mod, and then use that to kind of buy your governance token. And then, we'd get to this ideal situation where DAOs on Aptos are holding a lot of mod, they can go back to the AMM, provide liquidity against it, earn yield, and yeah. So kind of a pretty big vision there, David. But yeah, there we go.
Well, that was beautiful. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So humor me though. When I want to get on, I guess the easiest thing to do would be I have my APT, I go to your AMM maybe, and then I can get into the world of Thala, or should I say the Move Dollar?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that would probably be the easiest. Well, I guess most users in DeFi are familiar with, providing liquidity with their APTs. So yeah, I guess the AMM would be pretty good to be onboarded to first. Yeah.
Cool. So since you already got your own AMM, I'm kind of curious, do you have any partnerships that you're working with other teams in the space?
Yeah, so we're working quite closely with a few. So one of our first partners in the space was Ponta Network. Shout out them. They really helped. The engineering side to begin with. They've been building the space for quite a while. So they have an AMM, but I think it's quite different than ours. Theirs is like the XYK model, which totally has its uses. I think that will continue to do great. We'll likely have some liquidity on there. So I guess maybe you could see it as like they're kind of like the Uniswap, and we're kind of like the balancer of the Aptos world, where you can have these products like synergistically, but they compete in some areas, but definitely we're still partners with them. And then we've actually been chatting to PancakeSwap a lot. We might have some liquidity on there too. I chatted with their team a few times. Now I really like what they're doing. I think they have like this really retail friendly app, kind of like a cult of users, and we'll likely have some mod liquidity on there too. And then of course we've been working with Tortuga Finance, which has been great. Momentum Safe, I think. Momentum Safe has been we've been going back and forth with them on a lot of code related stuff. Not really anything to do with our products, but just on the infrastructure side. So those are kind of main people working with.
That's really cool. I think the other kind of question I have that in space, I don't know if you watched last week's episode, but one of the things that I'm always curious about when you've got these kind of stable coins or these collateral backed coins is how are you folks thinking about making sure that it stays stable?
Yeah, sure. So it starts with like the composition of collateral, what we onboard. Like, even if so we have like, this redemption mechanism and everything, but that's really secondary to like what's backing it. It's over collateralized. So the key is like, are the assets that you're onboarding, like, do they have sufficient on-chain liquidity? Is it something that, if you onboard as collateral and people redeem against it and sell it, like, is it going to maintain its value? So, onboarding high liquidity assets, first of all, using our risk framework is, the first line of defense. Things like Aptos, the token are very liquid, on SEXs, DEXs, things like USDCR too. So yeah, looking at that, as a first step. And then the second, is this redemption mode. As I mentioned before, where, you can take $1, 1 unit of your mod and redeem it for the underlying collateral. And given we have this, like, let's say, invariant or constraint on the liquidity, where the liquidity of these assets are deep, you redeem, get this collateral back and you can sell it. And, ideally the price impact isn't too large. So, you effectively kept the system stable and people have redeemed and the stable coins back on peg. So, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think we had a few questions, I think, from the type form. Max, do you have those handy?
I do. I've asked a couple of them, but I actually have one other question. Obviously this is not a financial advice, but like, what kind of yields potentially are you expecting across different assets, or yields that you're seeing in similar products?
Yeah. So you mean on the AMM, for example,
yes.
What will be target yields? Yeah. So say for something like mod USDC, when you provide liquidity against that. I think, long term, equilibrium, we'd want to target something like, 5 to 10% yield on that, potentially more, but, ideally that would be largely organic, just from swap fees. With the, if we were to launch the token, let's say the token would be called THL, we could, obviously incentivize these pairs more and push them up. I think yields in DeFi are kind of they're not really like a steady state thing. I think, when we launch our protocol, to bootstrap liquidity, we could be, offering 50, 100%, 200% yields on things. Obviously that would decline as TVO goes down. But I think, steady state for something like mod USDC liquidity, ideally that'd be earning a natural rate of, let's say 5 to 10%, from swap fees. But, with our governance token, incentivization and pre-mining program and all that, yields ideally would be quite high and competitive with the rest of the DeFi ecosystem.
Amazing. David, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, just to have a little bit of fun, and I don't know what the answer to this one is, so I apologize for asking a left field. But you're focused on USD, or the US dollar. Have you considered stable coins of other denominations?
So for example, a euro based, or I'm Canadian, like a Canadian dollar stablecoin. Yeah, so definitely. I think that's actually within our roadmap. I think there's another euro stablecoin, I think called Angle Protocol, another chain which has been doing quite well. I think there's definitely a lot of utility in having you be able to kind of mitigate your forex exposure, go long or short. It would just require a new deployment of the mod stablecoin, so it'd be mod, CAD mod, or Euro mod, or JPY mod. But yeah, I think down the line we actually would end up doing that, deploying that.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think I burned through all my questions that are deep in my mind. So open up to the general audience if there's anybody else that has any other questions as well, or we can move to the general Q&A as well, and Thala can stick around with us as we go through those questions in case there's anything else that pops up. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we have gone through, let me actually check Discord, but we've definitely gone through all the questions in Twitch. So I think it is just about time to jump to community questions in general. So super appreciated. Thank you so much, both. This has been super fascinating, and I really look forward to y'all launching and using Thala Labs products, playing around with some AMM.
Great.
But
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And obviously, if anyone else has any other questions, they are here. So please feel free to ask. Otherwise, we can jump right into what is your vision for the entire Aptos ecosystem? Where do you have to come to say, yes, we've succeeded?
That's an Avery question.
Oh, okay, sorry. Is this
Avery or David?
Is this for Thala, or is it?
No, this is for us. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, our vision for the Aptos ecosystem is really about how do we get kind of mainstream adoption of Web3, right, on a broader basis. And I think I promised Sherry that I would potentially consider a tattoo on my body once we hit 1 billion users daily on Aptos. So I think it's a good first starting step to think about where we want to get to. In many ways, it's the early part of our journey. We've launched our mainnet. We've been working on it for 4+ years. And we've got a number of projects in the works that we're excited about in terms of being the vehicles, and including things like stablecoins and others on the space that we think are going to actually be the vehicles for onboarding lots of folks and getting them utility in the world of Web3. David,
so the one thing I want to call out there is, I don't know if you can really define success. I think it's a process. We have a series of milestones, goals, visions, and just like Avery said, we really want to be a blockchain that enables real scalability for everybody, and not just for Web3, the hundreds or millions of users. We want to hit the billions of users and really get all over the place and be interoperable and accessible. But it's a process, it's not a destination.
I like the word that we used back then very often is redefine expectation. So I feel like no matter what we expect right now, I'm hoping that someone can come in and actually redefine our expectation. I bring something that we don't even know that could exist, or some application that's so kick-ass and so many people love to use it that it's beyond our imagination of today. So I feel like we can define something we don't know yet. And I'm very looking forward to those things to start happening.
Yeah, I mean, just to add a little more to this question, right? Like, something we come back to a lot is thinking about what the technology is today. It's still really early. All the blockchains in the world can't do what a single MetaSQL server can do. There's more than hundreds of thousands or millions of those running for single applications of Web2 space, and we're trying to get much broader than that, right? And to get to that kind of adoption of what all the internet applications are doing today, to bring it to Web3 is going to require a tremendous amount of growth in the infrastructure side, in the education side, in terms of new products and experiences. We can't predict those things, but we kind of will know once we at least on the infrastructure side start to hit those limits, like reach those goals in terms of providing the base there that people can build on top of. And we're excited to just keep pushing the technology boundaries to get there.
So next question for the community is: I've seen a lot of scam projects. What can be done to help prevent that?
Who wants to take first? I'm happy to take the first one. This one too. So, we're definitely we're trying to be the most safest and scalable blockchain out there, and so this is something that's really important to us to address. At the same time, it's a permissionless network, right? It means that anyone can do whatever they want to top the network, and it's something that our community and ourselves can have any control over. That being said, we are talking with a bunch of different folks in the community to figure out solutions to provide more signal about different projects. And I think hopefully we'll have something to announce in that space. But the idea of being able to say like, hey, here's a way to track some of the projects. Here's a way to know if they've been audited, where their code bases are. Some discussions people have had with them, what their LinkedIn profiles, if any, like they want to share. Some people are anon in the space, we want to respect that as well. But the more we can kind of provide information in these projects and kind of, this is not something that we can do it alone. This is a community-led effort that we need everyone to kind of participate in. But the more information we give and signal about it would be fantastic. And you can think about those signals being then integrated on-chain as well. So people can programmatically determine which projects they want to work with. We can actually integrate into wallet infrastructure, including Petra, Martian, and others, where you kind of be warned about, these projects that have been kind of more vetted by the community, these are not. So think about what you want to do and then how you want to interact with them. We're really excited about having to solve these problems, not just for Aptos, but for the broader ecosystem in general. So just a couple ideas here. Not sure if anyone else wants to add anything to that.
We're working on some cool stuff too.
Yeah.
But yeah, do your own research and please, if it doesn't look 100% legit, just err on the side of caution. I think is the easiest thing. There have been a lot of people coming in faking projects from other chains. Just really make sure that that the source of the NFT you're buying or anything like that. Right.
Yeah, scam is everywhere in life, and then
especially Web3.
Yeah, you just need to really have the principles of like, if it's too good to be true, it's probably not true.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we still on the technical side, we do our best to try to integrate as much signal as possible to the products. I mean, I think looking at things like what Chrome has done with protecting you from going to bad URLs, I think the same thing can be done in Web3, and we're excited to actually pioneer some of that technology with our blockchain and our wallets, in the ecosystem in general.
Easy. So here's a question I'm not actually sure we'll be able to answer. The bridge between Arbitrum and Aptos is slow. Do we have a plan?
Which bridge is this?
Arbitrum network bridge?
I think this would be a great question for whoever built that bridge. Into looking into what the challenges are there. I think what we've seen consistently across the Aptos space is just, as we reported kind of last week around our numbers, all the transactions are completing sub-second for the most part. Some of them, depends on what you measure. You measure from the validators, it's under half a second. So if you see slowness, it's hard to determine exactly where it comes from a lot of times, because there's kind of the application part of the latency. There's also the part that comes from the blockchain. So we want to work with the community and figure out exactly what we can do to optimize the latency from the application standpoint, But we kind of also need to get a little more information in terms of what, where folks are seeing the issues, and we'll work with you to address those.
I just want to call out, we have GitHub issues on Aptos Labs, Aptos Core. Fill out an issue, call it out in Discord. We'll try to work with the appropriate partners to get them the feedback so that we can make sure that Aptos is an easy to use environment and maps to the goals of being high performance and all the other lovely bits.
Fantastic. Is there any financial support available for teams that want to develop dApps on Aptos? Are there any grants? Yes. Yes, the foundation actually has a lot of grants. I'll share the link in our Twitch chat. But aptosfoundation.org/grants is the landing page for the whole process, and there's an application form. You'll be able to tell them a little bit about your project, what you're building, what you want to build, link some socials. And I believe admittance it's either on a rolling basis or not, but there are a bunch of projects that have launched and are launching soon from kind of the first round of grants. And they're actively looking at the kind of round 2 for the grant program. So please, if you have an idea, if you want to build something, if you're looking at Move, apply. You never know. We would love to see your project on Aptos. Next question is, what is the difference between, and this comes from Drew Jane, what is the difference between emitting events and storing the event data in a table? So on one hand, events are kind of part of the core framework. They're a very special kind of type, and I'll explain why in a second, but the beauty of using an event is that you end up getting supported across the ecosystem. It gets picked up by indexing really quickly and easily. There's a events kind of endpoint basically for fetching events, given the event handle. You kind of get into that whole structure. By using a table, you don't. Emitting events specifically are special, and one of the reasons why they're cheaper than just creating a bunch of table items is that events are also ephemeral. Events get pruned over time by the full node, and so you don't need to pay for storage forever, because you know that they're going to get removed from most full nodes after a while. That's also why indexing is so key here, to make sure that data continues to live somewhere else. So if you want permanent things, keep them in a table. If you want to let other users or applications know kind of what happened when someone called a method in your contract, you should use events.
I think it's also worth calling out the cost difference is substantial as well. When you create a new slot or a new table element, you're going to be paying a lot more for that, whereas the cost for an event is roughly equal to just writing data if you already had an existing slot or an existing table. So it can be much cheaper. And we're also always exploring ways that we can further optimize that.
Yeah, so expect event prices to go down, maybe? Fantastic. So can the team comment on the cannibalization of any USD-backed stablecoins? Will USDC or USDT be launched on our chain, on Aptos?
I'm not sure we can comment much on that, but we're always happy to have either of those entities come over here and work with us, collaborate with us. It's a layer 1 for everyone, including those 2 organizations.
Yes.
Tell them.
Yeah. Tell them.
If you know them, if your grandmother knows them, so on and so forth, have them contact us. We'd love to talk with them.
So how do you make sure you don't get offset errors after a module is deployed? The errors don't seem to happen during move test.
So a lot of those are usually due to invariant violations that end up happening, such as nested asserts that get hit or other behaviors that you didn't validate out. And so it's usually because you didn't think about all the negative cases that can end up happening, and where you could potentially put asserts in there to explicitly call out, hey, don't try to pull out a resource that doesn't exist. Don't try to manipulate data that, again, doesn't exist. Make sure you handle things end to end, and where you don't, make sure you have the proper checks to make sure that such data exists. I think that's what it really just comes down to. If you do all those validations, you should be able to see that in your test cases and be pretty happy, I think. But would love to actually see examples if you want to run that through. We've got the Discord for collaboration and helping people figure these things out. And also that new Stack Overflow.
Yeah, please. We would love to see your questions there. So next question is, did Aptos have a partner who helped them build the blockchain? Yes and no. So I think, obviously the history of Aptos with Diem and the project at Meta that went on there for 3 years with, some of the brightest people on the planet, and more or less unlimited Meta resources before ultimately Diem was unable to launch due to regulatory reasons. And then a lot of those people came out here. So that's why I say kind of, obviously Aptos, we're not funded by Meta or anything like that. We don't have that relationship. But all of us, not all of us, plenty of us were from Meta. And a lot of us did work on Diem, and in some way or another, some since the very beginning. So while there is no partner helping build the actual core blockchain today, it could be you. It is fully open source, and we'd love contribution.
Well, yeah.
Just to call out a couple things there.
Look through the commit histories, and you will see all the people that come along the long ways of building it, and all the history of every commit and every line of the code.
Yeah, exactly what Sherry is saying is there. It's not just Aptos. It's not just the historical branches. There's been enormous amounts of third-party contributions. We're always happy to have more contributions. Or we've actually been in conversations with entities that are excited to explore new research endeavors in that space. If that's you, feel free to reach out. Feel free to put through the grants process to go through that. But basically, it's an open source haven, and we love collaboration. The other thing, just to call out the fact that it is open source, is we do actually work very closely with a lot of external projects that we depend on. And so, it goes in all different directions. We try not to make Aptos Labs completely, or Aptos Core rather, completely dependent on just Aptos Core. It doesn't scale well, and it's good to have that differentiation of concerns.
Amazing.
Our partners is you. Come
Yeah.
over, build with us.
Our partner is you. Fantastic. Anyone else have any other questions? So there we go. What differentiates Aptos from other L1s? I hope there's a fact section. I think there's a fact section on aptos.dev, but the move language is one of the main differences. I highly recommend you take a look. Thalla Labs talked a little bit about the difference here, right? Their experience on it. We've had a lot of positive feedback, but there's a lot. There are a lot of differences. Consensus, parallel execution. There's a lot of papers. I highly recommend taking a look at our blog and our aptos.dev. One of the questions is when Stack Exchange? We actually went back and forth on that one. I think we want to start with a Stack Overflow just because an empty Stack Exchange is a little sad. But if we get to the point where there are a lot of questions about Move, the Aptos blockchain, etc., we may consider moving that over to a Stack Exchange. But for now, just normal Stack Overflow. So one of the other questions is, what do you guys think about NFTs on Aptos? Are they valuable? This is obviously not financial advice. Do your own research. Never invest more than you're willing to lose, etc. But I think we are seeing that there are some communities out there that are really building more than just a PFP project, that really are building very significant communities. I really actually enjoy the Domingos community personally. I enjoy the Ghosties community. People there are super nice. And there are a lot of interesting projects out there with interesting arts as well. And for some of the things that we've heard are considering doing some interesting things. I think it's really, really easy to forget that this is the first day of week 3, right, for the Aptos mainnet, right? Like, I think because of just how many partners and people launched on day 0, that it's really easy to forget the fact that we are extremely young. We are infant blockchain, right? There's a lot of good and amazing metrics out there around the TVL, around really just the number of people that are diving in and trying to build things, but a lot of the primitives aren't there yet, right? One of the areas that personally I'm really interested in seeing is DAO tooling. I'd really love to see ways for the community to move from managing these pieces in Discords. At the Bancos, for example, they had a vote whether to send one of the founders to Lisbon or not for the conference, and they voted yes. Right? How cool would it be if that was on-chain, right? If that was actually via DAO tooling, people had the tools they need to really build larger communities that help align incentives together to really move forward. And I think looking at some other chains, that was really a large catalyst.
To me, I feel like NFT is a very fascinating concept, right? Like, I feel for me, it is beyond just art. I mean, I love all those art. They're super cute, and I personally really enjoyed them. But I feel like for me, I would really love to see all the things like Max was mentioning, like the DAOs or the building the communities or using NFTs for all those like really fun and cool stuff like gaining membership, become ticketings, and then build your like own interest group or even social communities and all that kinds of cool stuff. So I feel like all those stuff takes time and takes a lot of like development or like investing into like really building the utility around it. And what we see today is just really the beginning of it. So for me, I'm waiting to see all the fun and cool stuff people are going to do with the NFT concept.
Wow. Cool.
Did Aptos have any outages yet? No, our uptime is still 100% for mainnet.
Fantastic.
The one thing I want to call out there, though, is we do sometimes update our software. We do update our nodes. And if you're only dependent on our nodes alone, there's a good chance that you might say, oh my gosh, Aptos is down. So we strongly recommend that either you run your own nodes that connect to multiple full nodes upstream, or you find multiple REST service providers so that in the off occasion where we do a mass update, you're not left confused on why you can't get access to Aptos.
Yes.
It is a decentralized world. Don't trust one source. Trust your own source and verify across multiple sources.
Yes. It is offered as a public service with no SLA. The blockchain, very high uptime. Public services that we offer with no SLA, not necessarily high uptime, definitely high uptime. But obviously we don't make the same promises or guarantees, right? So yes, professional node providers though will. So I highly recommend finding one of those. There are a few already that have sprung up, and there will be more. Same thing with indexing, etc. We offer these APIs publicly because we really want people to be able to build and prototype right out the gates. But of course, we haven't made any promises yet about offering those additional APIs or anything either. So please find a provider who does. If you're paying for it, generally the support is better, unless it's Comcast. In which case, you're kind of screwed either way. Cool. So I'm going through the questions and let's see. When it comes to move, for topics outside of traditional trading and analytics, how are we distinguishing ourselves? This can be things like gaming, supply chain, etc. I think the advantages of Move actually for any of these other things aren't necessarily different than the advantages of any other industry, right? Ultimately, the major difference, for example, from going from Solidity to Move is that in Solidity, as Sal mentioned, it's really, really easy to shoot yourself in the foot. Like it's really easy to write contracts that do exactly what you want and then have 1,000 people in the ecosystem find ways to make them do exactly what you never want them to do. Move with its focus, kind of like borrow checker and Rust. There's a strong focus on safety. So there's no dynamic dispatch yet. Maybe we'll see. But there's no dynamic dispatch, and the compiler really enforces a lot of safety checks and constraints on you to prevent a lot of these bugs from ever even being compiled, let alone reaching the blockchain. And so this is cross-cutting, right? There's no one industry that it's better for or anything else. It's just safer broad spectrum. And the Aptos chain, obviously, with high throughputs, low time to finality, and I will add also guarantee, non-probabilistic finality, actual finality. Whenever you see a transaction is confirmed, there's no waiting for 80 confirmations or anything like that. There's no forks, there's no reorgs. It really is the transaction will fail or it'll succeed, and that's kind of it, right? Once it hits a validator. Which, if you're building any kind of applications or indexing on top of Aptos, that makes life so much easier. So not only is it safer and faster, but also it really is much easier. Same with the amount of data that actually gets written to chain on the structs and the types, make indexing much easier. If you notice that I talk about indexing a lot, it's because at Meta, after DM, that's what I worked on, indexing Ethereum. And I think I still have PTSD from trying to index NFT data on Ethereum. So yeah, those are kind of the things, but I highly recommend taking a look at aptos.dev. There's a bunch of tutorials that help you walk through a bunch of different pieces. And hopefully it'll give you a better idea of the difference. And that takes us through 11. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been a fantastic day. It's been a fantastic week, and I hope your next week is fantastic as well. And thank you again to the folks with Tala Labs for coming on and talking with us.
Thanks as well.
Thank you all.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.